My lips didn't always go where I intended them to, and my speech sounded slurred and distorted. Like eating, speaking was arduous. None of this was a good setup for a public appearance, and it got off to an awkward start. When I arrived at Lincoln Center, many of the country's great chefs tried to avoid me. No one approached me to say hello. I walked through the crowd and felt like a leper. At that time, it did not occur to me that they were trying to act normal, to not have to ask, "How are you doing?" The only good news at this point was that I was reasonably certain I would not win. Nick Kokonas, my business partner, put my chances as only a good friend could. "You have no chance of winning. Dan Barber is going to kick your scrawny ass. He is a great chef, he's been at it longer, and he's from New York. That is a killer combo. And he cooks real food. You're screwed." We had a good laugh at that, but it was exactly what we both thought. I grabbed a glass of champagne as a prop and stood in a corner with my girlfriend Heather. Although I considered leaving, she convinced me to go inside and sit down. I slumped down in my seat and the awards began. These ceremonies tended to drag on. An outstanding chef was the very last award to be given. Finally, Kim Cattrall slinked on stage to announce the last award of the evening. I perked up momentarily, smiled when my name was read as a nominee, and settled back into my chair. Then the announcement: "The outstanding chef in America for 2008 is Grant Achatz." I was stunned. Suddenly, I was on stage and the crowd stood, cheering. The words, unprepared, tumbled out of me. Rather than thank specific people who, obviously I need to, but in fact probably know who they are, I want to tell a quick story instead if I could. In 1996, I started at the French Laundry as a commis. I was 22 years old, and I was in awe. I walked into that restaurant and I saw a gentleman that ultimately would become my mentor and, at this point, even though it feels a little awkward to say, a great friend. What struck me about the restaurant was the push. I had never seen it before in my life. I had never experienced the discipline, the dedication, the intensity, the tenacity, and the drive that both the chef and all of the cooks possessed. I pulled that in, thinking it was going to make me a good cook and ultimately a great chef. What I didn't know was that it was actually going to save my life. That drive, that tenacity, that dedication that I took in at that restaurant, it became a part of who I am. 10 years later, 12 years later, it helped me get through a pretty ridiculous battle. I think that everybody in the room can be proud of that because everybody can relate to how cooking, in one way or another, has not only influenced their professional career but also their lives. Also, I need to thank everybody in this room for the tremendous amount of support that I received in this last year. I had emails, countless phone calls, letters, packages, offers from chefs that I consider mentors, friends, colleagues, and visionaries, to help in any way that they possibly could at a time when I needed it. I didn't let any of them come to the restaurant and cook like they suggested. I couldn't do that to the Alinea cooks. But the support that I received was critical at a time when I needed it, and again, I think we can all be very proud of that. I know that it really helped me push through. That's really it. I'm kind of in awe. I think that it's an amazing honor, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you all. Thank you. The award is fantastic for any chef to win, but for me it was a new beginning. The news of my cancer was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune and covered prominently by the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. But the news of my recovery was less publicized. Business at Alinea, for the first time ever, began to wane. Patrons thought I was still sick, or worse, dead, and I was worried that while I had beaten cancer, I had not won the fight for the restaurant I loved. But that award